More from Remax Realty, Indy Home Pros.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Works down by Burke, bounces into Cody, puts it up, scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Appreciate you joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat as always. Dylan Sinn joins us here on Wednesdays. He does as well from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Dylan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. It's glad to be back. And got another beautiful day here. It's feeling like summer out there.
Yeah, we were talking in the break a little bit. Monday was the first day that, although we had the national championship soccer game that we anticipated, we were looking forward to that. But other than that, there was no stress. It was like, okay, Indiana's basketball roster was full. The football team had just secured more commitments from the kid from USC Carr and the defensive lineman. So everything was kind of like, wow. But like Monday, the whole day, I'm like looking over my shoulder all day, waiting for something to happen because I know it's going to, because it hadn't stopped for 10 weeks, and it didn't. And then yesterday, I'm like, okay, so let's just relax. And it was like, wow, it was the first stress-free day in like, I don't know, 10 weeks, seriously. And it was glorious.
Absolutely wonderful. And I covered a baseball game last night. It was 79 degrees and sunny. The team that I cover, the Tin Caps up here in Fort Wayne, announced they're increasing their capacity to 40% as of June 1st, 70% as of June 29th. It's feeling very normal out here. We're getting close.
Yeah, my first day off, really, I went to a baseball game too. I went to the IU game last night. They were a rare midweek Big Ten game. Didn't work out for them though. The Illini win in extra innings. I think it was 3-2. Indiana's lost four out of the last five, I think, as they're heading down this stretch. Well, they lost 2 out of 3, so 3 out of their last 4. Lost a series to Michigan and lose this one. They've got four home games coming up this weekend that they have to win. I think that they're in, but you can't lose 3 out of 4 and do the same these coming up. They've got to do something with these games, I think. I haven't studied I don't even know what they're using to get into the tournament this year, because everything has changed. So are they taking top 3 from I have to go back and research that. But Indiana has been atop the Big Ten Conference for most of the season. I think that they're in, but you can't tank these last 5. They've got a 4-game homestand, and then they've got 3 games on the road. So they've got 7 games left. You've got to win. I'm thinking 4 out of those 3.
Yeah, I would say that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's tough. They lost that series to Michigan 2 out of 3 because that pretty much not yet, but pretty much sewed up the Big Ten regular season title for Michigan, which, as you said, Indiana had been leading the league most of the season. So that's a tough pill to swallow. But they still have the Big Ten tournament. They still have, hopefully, as you said, an NCAA tournament. So season's not over yet for the Hoosiers. They have a chance to really make some noise here at the end, but got to get it turned around here.
Well, if I gave you 10,000 guesses to guess which college basketball program is in hot water again while under NCAA investigation for committing crimes, while under NCAA investigation, this program just cannot stay out of the Inquirer. I mean, they are the National Enquirer of college basketball. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because that did not used to be the case. And Louisville has just become a bastion of problems. I don't think it's because you've got a whole new group of people there. So you can't say it's the same people. You've got a new athletic director, new president, new basketball head coach. And yet they find themselves in this incredibly crazy situation again. Before you had Rick Pitino getting extorted from the chick that he had relations with in a restaurant that I used to frequent, that I was actually sitting in the night the story broke. Probably very close to the exact spot where Rick Pitino would sit at that bar. There was a bar, it's a restaurant, but they have a bar there. But it was very close to where I was staying at the time. But I'm not kidding you. And there was very few people. I remember it was 10 o'clock at night. TV truck rode up out front, which was very odd because this is kind of a quieter place. And there was just a couple of us in there, and then 11 o'clock rolls on, and then that story busts while I'm sitting in that restaurant. And I'm like, looking at the other people, and we're like, what the F? But that's another story. So now we've got Dino Gaudio, a former head coach, a mentor of Chris Mack, who now a former Louisville assistant. He's facing federal extortion charge for allegedly threatening to go public with alleged recruiting violations in an effort to recoup salary when he lost his job in March. Not the way to go about things, but maybe there were some problems going on there before. But we got two things going on here. First of all, you've got this sensational story that's a Louisville story again. But then on the backside of this, are they freaking cheating again while you're under double secret probation? And I mean double secret probation because they're under investigation for committing acts while they're under investigation. I mean, it just goes on and on and on with them. And we've talked about how no program will ever get the death penalty again. And although Louisville deserved it for their last infraction that they've not been, that penalties have not been meted out for yet, you add this on top of it. If there is something to these recruiting allegations, I'm like, okay, what do you do with that? You already have a team that really would have been, by the book, eligible for the death penalty for what they did before, which I agree the death penalty is almost egregious. But when you add this on top of it and those penalties haven't even been meted out yet, man, that opens up to me, Dylan, that opens up a whole nother can of worms when you start talking about the damn death penalty.
Right. And I mean, you said it that this is a whole new group of people. It's a new coach, new athletic director, new group. And yet it seems like and now we don't know because we don't know if the allegations that Gaudio was making were going to be true. But he did allege that they had some recruiting violations with managers putting together recruiting tapes and then having grad assistants at practice, which is also a no-no. So it was recruiting and in-program stuff. And so that stuff is relatively minor. But as you said, compounding that with everything that's happened before, especially with a new group of people, it's crazy to see that happen. And of course, it's not just the minor recruiting allegations. It's the fact that this coach basically said, a highly decorated coach who had coached Wake Forest and mentored Chris Mack, as you said, had basically said, if you don't pay me a certain amount of my salary, I'm going to go to whoever about this. And now he's being prosecuted for extortion charges.
There had to be something too that I haven't spoken to anyone. I will reach out, but I have not reached out to any of my friends in the Louisville market. But I'm thinking, just comment. Okay, there's something going on here. When you have that kind of a relationship, then you have that kind of acrimonious ending where it's just not a harmonious ending. So there was something going on, I'm thinking, prior to that where he's making these demands because that obviously caught him as a surprise. But all that is beside the point. It's going to be Louisville is going to become the litmus test. And NCAA is like they're in like spin cycle anyway. They got so much going on. Muppet Mark Emmert up there dealing with name, image, likeness. When he just pulled his head out of the sand and dealing with that, which his head is sitting there spinning. He probably doesn't even know the University of Louisville exists. But this is beyond the capabilities of the NCAA. They've shown that time and time again that they can't handle this. But I don't know who can, to be honest with you. The schools aren't going to self-report this because they're doing everything they can to get away with it. I mean, it's like a NASCAR team. They're going to do everything they can to find a little bit of speed, whatever. They get caught, they get in trouble. But do you think people stop cheating? No. Basketball teams stop cheating? No. Chris asked, though, how clean are most colleges? How clean is IU? Well, I'll tell you this. And this is not, what's clean? All right. During the Bob Knight era, I guarantee you players were not getting paid. That I freaking promise you. He was such a, he would have literally probably beat the crap out of somebody if he found he was that. Oh, I mean, seriously, because he knew how vocal he was, he would have beat the crap out of somebody that paid a player. Now, going forward, I think that if you're asking my opinion, clean. Look at IU's record. Do you think they've been cheating? Are you kidding me? If that's been cheating, then, buddy, they are not doing it the right way. So there's my answer to that, Chris. And so, no, yes, IU is clean. You got IU or Tom Allen on the football side. 2 and 3 star recruits. Some 4 stars now, getting 4 stars now. That's not, I promise you, that's player development. You want to talk about cheating in football? You go to the SEC. I promise you, those players are getting paid. And I'm not being silly and being facetious. Paid cash. That money is still changing hands in the SEC. If you think that those programs, I mean, Dylan, it's not like this is something that's out of the blue. I mean, you go back to the story Auburn, you go back all the story the parents. But let's be honest, there's been other ways of doing things. A lot of people won't like this. Pretty sure Romeo Langford's dad came out pretty well the one year he ran the AAU team for Romeo's team. Had he ever ran an AAU team in his life? Coached a team in his life? Managed a basketball program in his life? There were ways of doing things, but that had nothing to do with Indiana. Zero. There's a lot of things out there, guys. Lots of stories. A lot of stories that you don't know, a lot of information that you don't know. But as far as programs being clean, everyone's looking for an advantage, but specific to Indiana, no, they are not paying players. They're not cheating. I don't think it's worth it in this day and age, personally, with the transfer portal, with all the things that are out there, Dylan. I don't think you have to. Most teams don't have to. Some have, and some will still probably do that. But that's my little rant on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing you talked about, the SEC. We just had the story a few months ago about Tennessee football players getting handed bags of cash in McDonald's.
No. And that's Tennessee. And they suck. They are horrible.
But yeah, the part of the problem is that the NCAA has the whole self-reporting thing, but they've come down so hard on some teams that have self-reported. The team that jumps to mind is Notre Dame football. They self-reported. The NCAA took away their national championship wins. Indiana had self-reported during the Kelvin Sampson era. The NCAA came down in the men. There's no incentive for teams to self-report because the NCAA makes examples out of the teams.
You are absolutely right. You are dissuaded from self-reporting.
Right. So what incentive?
Not only do you not benefit, you're hit harder. So again, the NCAA is inept. They don't know how to reward those that do self-report. That saves them from doing the job that they're not capable of doing. But yet, it's a joke. Hey, we got to take a break. We'll talk about a little bit more about the Louisville situation. There's more info to that. But whatever else you want to talk about, hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Make sure you're catching us at YouTube. Go there and sign up if you haven't. We're back with more. Dylan Sinn's with us. Cal Neddenriep's going to join us today. Bob Kravitz as well. Back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new...
I like the new intros, Jim.
Thank you. Well, it's time for a change-up. A little more professional.
There you go.
I was going to have him do one each day with the co-host, but we'll have to you got to do one different with you. Just make sure it's in and out. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
But no, had you heard that story, Jim, about the Tennessee players getting cash in McDonald's bags? I don't know if that's been.
I don't think so, because I'm like, they suck ass.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. And Dan Patrick.
Now that's the stories that I've heard, throughout the years for especially in SEC players. But the things that get me has been these AAU kids that they don't turn out to be shit. And some of them, and they're getting, we're on break. I can say shit. They're getting money. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not. The AAU, some people were very fortunate. I wish I would have been involved in the AAU side for 2-3 summers of when that was. Boy, so I guarantee you, there's a few people that probably made a lifetime of money. Think about it.
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
Yeah, they've cracked down on that a little bit, but like it's hard because the NCAA, what jurisdiction do they have over AAU? You know what I mean?
And plus,
it's hard.
There was nothing illegal.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's stuff that's purportedly against NCAA rules. But what is the NCAA going to do? Who are they going to send?
But I don't even think there were even NCAA rules. I mean, coaching an NCAA team, or AAU team, or running the AAU team, and then and Adidas paying for the program, giving the money to run the program. There's nothing illegal about it. I got to give it. If he didn't think of it, or if he thought of it, I got to give it to him for being pretty smart.
Coming back. Also, Kyle will be joining shortly. For a relaxing night with the family, meeting for lunch, hanging with friends, or on the golf course, Sam's Restaurants has multiple locations and something for everyone. Sam's Restaurant in Fishers has homemade coffee cakes and much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Here's Jim Coyle.
Dylan Sinn from Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, sitting in with me as he always does each Wednesday. We've got the Indy 500 coming up. We got stuff happening, Dylan. I didn't attempt to get credentials this year for the 500. I kind of wish I would have, but I'll be honest with you. I'm freaking tired, man. I'm tired. I don't want to have to cover anything for a minute. I mean, yesterday was the first day off, and I went to a baseball game, but I wasn't really covering it as per se. But yeah, it's the Indy 500 coming up. Fans, this should be the largest spectator sport we have seen. Well, it always is, but since the pandemic.
Yeah, since the last day of the Big Ten tournament there. But yeah.
What are we, 135,000? Is that right?
Something like that. Yeah, it's a half capacity. I thought maybe something like that.
They had like 300 at the 100th running of it, but the big thing is is it going to be blacked out?
Yeah. That's always the big thing.
And that's such a load of crap. But I get it. With your local market, you want to try to get as many people in. It's a tricky thing, but it is what it is. But the Indy 500, and now it's under new ownership. Roger Penske and that group. Have you spent much time down at the track?
I haven't. No, that's we cover the Indy 500, but that's for the Journal Gazette. But I have not actually been down there. It's kind of one of those bucket list things, but I haven't gotten there quite yet.
Well, we'll have to do that together, man, because I need to go do that. It's just been a busy time, but looking forward to watching it and watching all the spring events that come around. And then, you've got AAU that is picking up steam. Those have started, and it won't be long, brother. And fall football camp's going to be here. And I'm not kidding, because we're what is this, the 18th, 19th, something like that?
It is the 19th of May. Yeah, we got we're
not that far from June, which is crazy, freaking crazy that we're nearing the midway point of 2021. It's wow. But yeah, and things are going to pick up like nuts in the fall for a lot of people. But if you're covering Indiana, it's going to be crazy. You've got soccer that will return, of course, but football. This is the most anticipated football season in Indiana program history. I can say that because I doubt there was a lot of anticipation back in the 60s. There was no social media. There was no one knew what the team was going to be like. Hell, half the people didn't know who was on the team. That's not the case anymore. Everybody knows, everybody's anticipating. So this, without question, is the most anticipated football season in Indiana University history. I think, there's Kyle Neddenriep's already with us. Didn't know that. So I can say that easy. But we'll talk about that later. Kyle, how you doing, brother?
Good. I thought you were just ignoring me.
I got the camera up. You're always so dark. You got your Ty Cobb hat on, and it sits in there kind of quiet like. But yeah, I was talking about, how are the Tigers doing, by the way?
Well, they pitched a no-hitter last night, so that's good.
Oh, I saw I didn't know it was I didn't realize that was who had that no-hitter.
Them and everyone else, but congratulations.
Yeah. I know. If the Tigers are pitching no-hitters, it's time to change the rules, I think. It's not enough hitting going on.
Man, was it the mid to late 90s, the last run the Tigers had when they were really good?
No. I mean, they had a really good, they had David Price and Max Scherzer and Verlander. Yeah. And I mean, they were Cabrera's prime. And I mean, 2012, they made the World Series. 2006, they were in the World Series. 2013, they lost the Red Sox, probably their best team in the ALCS. With Jim Leland, they had some really good teams, not all that long ago.
So it's good to follow. I love the old teams. I love people that follow the old teams, the old school teams. I'm a Reds guy, so I guess that does count. They don't seem like an old school team, but they are one of the oldest.
They are, in fact, the oldest team. 18.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't seem like it. I guess because they're still not called the Redlegs. Maybe if they were still called the Redlegs, people would think that. What's been going on with you, man, Kyle?
Not much, man. There are things going on, but
I was just talking about the fact that Monday it was like I kept looking over my shoulder, thinking and waiting for something to happen. Then yesterday I was like, all right, I'm gonna relax a little bit. So it was a weird feeling, but so hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of that yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of my son's baseball games going on and stuff. I've still got, kind of knocking away at some feature stories and some things I'm just, working on. So yeah, it's kind of that time of year where you can get some stuff done and it's nothing too super heavy lifting as far as covering games necessarily. I will help out with some some softball and baseball stuff here in the next couple of weeks. But from a game perspective, not a ton of stuff, event stuff. But Indy and All Stars coming up. Been working on some of that. Actually, have a story coming here this morning on Pete Suter from Carmel, who is going through a injury situation. Unfortunately, he's going to miss all of the summer. He's going to miss the Indian All-Star Series, the exhibition game, and can't even play until at least late July. So he's going to miss all the evaluation period stuff, unfortunately. But so I caught up with him last night. So stuff like that. Got some other feature stories coming up on different people, but yeah. So we're definitely trying to do stuff with my kids as well.
Yeah. Trust me, I understand. Soccer is still finishing up, graduation, prom, all that good stuff. Was it yesterday? You had a story that I read, a great story on a kid. I'm looking for it. Special needs kid. It was a program that we talked about last week.
Yeah, that was the I think we talked about that. Sky Simpson from Carmel at the Special Olympics program, the unified sports program at Carmel. But yeah, that was last. Yeah, I think we touched on that last week. But I had a story yesterday actually on Todd Windland from Carmel, or I had coached at Carmel girls basketball, and he's bounced around to. He's coached 10 different places in 18 years as a coach. And, he's going to Lapel now, he's from Frankton, which is right next to Lapel. And he has kind of a reputation as a guy who bounces from job to job, and rightly so. But just caught up with him about that. He's pretty honest, I thought, about, the different situations that have taken him to all these different schools. He's felt the criticism from people, but, there's a lot of explanations for why he left different places. There was parent pressure at Carmel and parent complaints after his 4 years there. I think he'd still probably be there if not for that. Kind of a controversial situation there a few years ago where he was kind of forced out, or what definitely was forced out. But he's a good coach. And I think now at Lapel, he's following Jimmy Howe there, who's a Hall of Fame coach. And, Lapel's a cool little town that's got a lot of basketball history. So this may be somewhere he finds home, but it was fun to catch up with him and talk about, why he's been to all these places and has this reputation and what kind of his, feelings are about staying at Lapel, which I think he probably will for a while.
Is that up by you, Dylan?
It's not that close to me. I don't think it's not in our coverage area. Where is Lapel?
Lapel's right. It's kind of close to Anderson. It's Madison County area. It's in our coverage area here, just barely. But they've had some really good basketball, even going back to the the 40s and stuff like that. And really a neat place. I mean, if you ever get there for a game, it's a place that still kind of really values basketball, small town environment, and has been really good over the years. Jimmy Howell, his son, J.R. Howell, coaches at Zionsville now. So, it was a weird situation. He left during the season this year, retired, and he was kind of forced out by, parent pressure. Not forced out, but he just said, I'm done with it. And, didn't want to deal with it anymore. And it was right before Christmas. His assistant, Justin Coomer, took over and finished out the year, and he wanted the job, didn't get it. And he's actually going to stay and help Todd Windland coach there now. But then, you see that more and more where, whether it's parent pressure, parent complaints, parents going kind of over the coach's head. In some cases, maybe there's a good reason for it. In some cases, it's just, playing time or, coaches too demanding, whatever. But I think, that's been something that's gone on since the beginning of basketball, but I think we see more and more of it here in the last few years. I've talked to several coaches who feel like it's changed, here in the last few years, especially. So it's maybe an interesting topic to get into at some point, or write about, or kind of go down that road a little bit farther.
Does it seem does it seem like coaches are? Is it more pressure from parents, or is it more Like, is it just like players feel they can speak up a little bit more, or what? Where is that pressure coming from?
I think I've talked to a couple of friends of mine who are in the coaching business about this, and I think there's entitlement's a word that gets thrown out a lot. I think probably overused somewhat, but I think there's a investment maybe that wasn't there before, as far as money investment, investment into time. Parents, and I've been there too. I mean, I've coached my own kids for mostly in my older son, but I've been assistant coach for other things, and I'm glad to help out. I love to do it, and I don't have I feel like I've got a pretty good perspective on things, having been around this business for a long time. But I think some parents, they feel like they've invested financially and time, and they feel like I'm gonna get my payoff one way or another, and if it doesn't happen immediately, then they may take that to the superintendent or athletic director and say, what's going on here? We're going to leave if something doesn't change here. And I think in some cases maybe that's painting a broad brush. I mean, that's not always. Maybe in some cases there are reasons to go complain about the coach for mistreatment, or myriad of things that we have all seen happen in different places over the years. But I think there's just more from that perspective. I think there's more time and money investment that it's not even about. And I think people kind of are like, well, it's just all about the college scholarships. That's what all parents care about. I don't think it's. I think maybe there's some of that, but I think it's more of like, I've invested this time. I want to see my kid compete at the high school level, and scholarships may be a part of that, but I think it's something different. I think it's more about we've done all this stuff. Where's the we better get the payoff, or it's not. None of this has been worth it.
Yeah, the money spent seems to equal entitlement. A lot of times, it doesn't matter what the sport is. Everybody thinks their kid should be playing, especially when you're paying money. They don't want to see their kid sitting on the bench. And it's funny because this weekend during the soccer tournament that I was at, I heard other parents. One of them was saying, I didn't pay this I want to win. I want to win. I don't care about equal playing time or blah, blah, blah. Of course, if their kid's on the field, that's one thing. Yeah, it's just funny how it goes when it gets to this all-star type of thing. But yeah, it has definitely changed, and money has changed that. The parents are more demanding as well. Back in the day, they didn't have this stuff. I just went and played summer baseball and had fun and had a great summer. Those days are gone, I guess, but sports has definitely changed for everyone and become a year-round billion-dollar business, and everyone tries to get the piece of that. We were talking about AAU earlier, about how guys figured out how just running an AAU team could be so profitable. But there's just so many different ways sports have changed all the way down.
Well, you touched on, I think the youth sports as a big business is a huge part of that. I mean, I know even as a parent, you feel pressure, like, should I be doing this and this, because, it's kind of like keeping up with the Joneses type of thing, because if you're not, then, oh no, you're going to get behind. And there is something real to, I think there is, and people, kind of, scoff at that sometimes. And it's like, but I think at some point it's, you want to put your kid in the best position, to allow them to compete. They do need to be having fun, and obviously they have to want to do it. I always tell my kids that you're the one that has to do it. You're the one that has to decide, do I want to do this? And then I'll try to help you do whatever, needs to be done. I'm no expert. I don't know, the coaches are the ones who need to tell you what to do and kind of help guide you. But as a parent, you want to be there and help them in whatever way you can. But there almost needs to be like a class for this to kind of teach everybody, like, all right, here's the expectations. Don't feel like you have to do everything with all these training and all this stuff. But I think it's hard to know, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, what needs to be done, what's not necessary. I see all these middle school, youth, exposure. Like, you don't need exposure, exposure to what, what are you exposing yourself to? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, all you're doing is filling the pockets of the people running the thing. It's a nothing, but so that kind of stuff kind of gets me going. But, you don't need exposure as a sixth grader, I'm sorry, but you don't. In the long run, it's probably going to hurt you more than it helps you. So you always have to have parents who kind of keep that, parents, coaches, people who guide you, to kind of keep that in mind for the bigger picture. Exposure will come if you put the work in, and if you're good enough, it's some of it's genetics too. You can only rise to a certain level, based on how, just how talented you are. So, there's a whole different list of things we could get into, but it's an interesting world. It's one, like you said, Jim, I didn't grow up in that either. We just went sport to sport. My parents weren't even really involved in it. They just came to the games. Maybe, they weren't, it wasn't the center of their lives, you got
your uniform. You got this, you got that. All right. See you.
We had one baseball bat, I think, on our whole team growing. We all shared the same bat.
It's actually funny. It would be great to take any of today's teams. I don't care if you're talking about a basketball team, a baseball team, whatever, and then make them use just what we had. They would think that they were playing with Babe Ruth equipment or Gene Sarazen equipment or all those guys from the 40s or something. That's what it would seem like to them. But yeah, it's like, wow, this was your helmet. That was it. Yeah, that's it. It's all we had. These are your bases. They're not even, they're tied to the ground. I mean, right. Man, it didn't matter. It was just about playing the game, but yeah, it has changed. It's become a lot more competitive. And, but I don't think people were less competitive then. I just think groups, it's gotten more competitive as a group, and that has just spawned that. But it's the business. Talk about the biggest business probably of all is cheerleading, things like that. Those are the biggest freaking businesses in the world. I guarantee you, anybody that runs, and I hope there's somebody listening running a cheerleading outfit, but generally all those people live in pretty nice houses. I remember when Kylie was young, she did all that stuff too. Man, that is a money-making business. Those uniforms are stupid expensive, crazy. I mean, it's mind-boggling the money that is generated through these things. Smart people.
I haven't been exposed to that world having two sons, but I know I have a good friend of mine who has 3 daughters who, and they're all into, he lives out in Virginia now, but they're traveling to Florida for different things that they do. I don't even know what they call them. I don't think they're camps, but competitions, I guess. And, I know it's it's just as big in that world as it is, baseball or basketball or anything else, and it's great to compete. And I'm all, never want to, say it's in anything. It's good to have competition and, to be competitive, but yeah, there's a business element to all of this that, someone's making money, and that's where you have to keep in mind. I remember Doug Mitchell, the North Central basketball coach, I used to have long conversations with him, and, we went to, I was at an open gym of theirs, and he pulled his kids aside and he told them, that's, you don't need to be doing all this extra, stuff. Remember everything you do, you're lining somebody's pockets, in not necessarily training. I think he was talking about a camp that was coming up and some of his kids were going to, so I remember that. I mean, that was several years ago, and kind of a lot of this stuff you're starting to see more of it. But I think, it's important to remember, what it's all about. At the end of the day, the ball's going to stop bouncing at some point. What are you getting out of your experience that's going to help you beyond, and not just in this moment. And even coaching my kids' teams, I always try to talk about that, because ultimately you're not going to be a player. At some point, that's going to be over, and hopefully your experience is something that can help you beyond in the future, be a better husband, father, brother, whatever. So That's really what sports should be all about. And that sounds, Pollyanna or naive, but I do think you have to keep that in mind.
I agree, man. What you got coming up next, brother?
Like I said, I'll have that story on Pete Suter out this morning. Working on some baseball features and another really, I think will be a good feature on a softball coach from around here, Kathy Stricker, who unfortunately is fighting stage 4 lung cancer. Never was a smoker, never, just hereditary thing. And she's been the only coach in Franklin Central softball history, 42 years, and farm kid from down around. She's from Silver Creek area originally. So she got a really interesting story. First scholarship women's athlete at Franklin College back in the 70s. So she got a really cool backstory. She fought for women's sports for a long, long time. And, I don't know how much time she's got left, but she's still coaching, still fighting, and a really cool person. So looking forward to finishing that story today as well.
Looking forward to reading it. All your stuff's great. Make sure go to it. Make sure you give Kyle a follow from the Indy Star. Looking forward to it. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good talk today.
You bet. Kyle Neddenriep joining us from Indy Star as always. We got more coming up. Dylan Sinn's joining me from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, and we'll be back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Whether you're looking for...
Woo! Great stuff. Man, this is getting funner and funner.
Yeah, Jim, at the beginning of that segment, I texted you that Kyle was on because I could tell.
I saw
it. I texted you too. I was like, does he not see Kyle?
But see, you have to understand, I got these headphones in, so I don't, sometimes I hear that and sometimes I don't. I didn't. I was, whatever it was, where I what was I talking about?
You were just talking about any old thing. You're talking about IU football and
it's like you were stalling because you didn't know he was there.
I did not see him, but I had the screen smaller than normal, so that didn't help. Plus, he was dark. Had his dark Tigers hat on.
Yeah.
It threw me off. How long was he there?
Probably about a minute or two.
That's funny.
I will say, though, it's interesting what you guys were talking about when you guys were kids, how different it was. It's different from when I was a kid, man. Like, I'm 27. 15 years ago, when I was that age, it was not even close to what it is now. Like, there was travel baseball and things like that.
I think it was like this. It was after my time. It didn't like drastically change after me. It was a slow, and then all of a sudden, I think whatever point it was, when people discovered they could make money, boom, that's what takes off.
Somewhere around 2010 or 2008, somewhere between there, that seems to be when it really, really took off. But it's gotten insane.
And I'm saying it's not as much fun doing this because you're playing for more, but there's also more pressure. I don't know.
I mean, look, when I was in between my senior year and freshman year of college, I umpired at Cooperstown, one of those high level travel tournaments.
Wow.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing that a lot. It was a lot of fun. But the championship game of that whole tournament, one of the teams had a pitcher fly in for that game specifically. He'd not been with the team the whole tournament. He'd been pitching.
See, now that's bullshit. That's complete and total bullshit. That's exactly what I'm talking about with Marshall. That's my problem with Marshall's soccer team. 90% of their players, not their roster, but 90% of the players on the field were foreign players. That's not American college soccer to me. If you want to have that division, then have the foreign division.
The Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Wednesday. Dylan Sim joining me from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Been talking about all kinds of stuff today. What was I just fired up about in the break? Oh, yes, Marshall.
Yeah.
My issue with Marshall is American college soccer. Yeah, there's always international players. It's an international game. But when 90% of your players are international, when the guys are actually playing on the field or international, they've been internationally trained, I don't think that is in the spirit of how the sport is set up. You look at Indiana's roster, and 90% of their roster is from the Midwest. Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Philadelphia is not in the Midwest, but the bulk of them is, and they develop and train, and it's a program. Marshall just went and they brought all the guys in they could bring in from around the world that had done nothing but play soccer their entire lives. So it's within the rules, but to me, that's a bought title. That is a bought title. Why do you think a team like Marshall could knock off the defending champion Georgetown, then North Carolina, then Indiana? Out of nowhere. Yeah. That's my issue. Marshall did not develop a program. Marshall has not grown a program. They bought a program. They bought and brought some players in. That's my issue with that. Nothing to do with Indiana. I don't care who they beat. It is, that would be just like you talking about, were we on air when you talked about the Cooper?
No, we weren't. That was in the middle.
What you were talking about, man, that's a cool story. You got to umpire in Cooperstown. First of all, that's just awesome in itself.
Right. They have basically a travel tournament, one of the biggest ones in the country. It's basically it's the Little League World Series, but a kind of different form. It's the same level. It's the same age of kids, and they have it every summer up in Cooperstown at a Little League complex they have. And I got to umpire up there between my senior year and freshman year of high school. Championship game, if I remember correctly, one of the teams had a pitcher fly in specifically for that game to pitch the championship game for them.
And that is just ridiculous. That's allowed, especially at that level. I mean, these
are 12-year-old kids. It was wild to me. And
yeah, it's wild to me.
And that just shows you how much things have changed, even since I was a kid. We were talking last segment about Kyle with Kyle, and I'm younger than you guys, but things have changed even since I was a kid. It's crazy how competitive it's gotten. But yeah, I mean, going back to Marshall, I mean that's the thing with a lot of these European kids, especially, is that they come up through these programs, and then if they can't quite make it in European soccer, they come to the United States to get an education and play soccer that way. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it definitely gives soccer a different flavor in college than almost every other sport here in the United States.
And now, what other programs like Marshall, who are little program? I mean, smaller. There's just a small school. As opposed to the traditional Indiana, North Carolina, Georgetown. These are traditional soccer programs, the East Coast schools.
Pittsburgh actually had a lot of international players as well, and they've built their program in a similar way as Marshall has.
Exactly. Pittsburgh does not have a great soccer tradition, to my knowledge.
No, that was their first college cup as well, I believe.
So, again, you got two schools making their first College Cup built solely on incorporating. That's a discussion for another time. You know, it's like in Europe, in like most of the basketball leagues, Dylan, a lot of them, they limit the roster to 2 Americans per roster. So that's just something to talk about. But comments. Let's see. A lot of people talking about the basketball roster. It is set, man. It doesn't matter. I don't care that the transfer. I mean, could somebody leave? I guess they could. There's nothing to say they couldn't, but who?
I was talking about that the other day, and I think that the most likely, I mean, if there's going, like, it doesn't seem like anyone's going to leave. It seems like it's pretty set at this point. But if someone's going to leave, the most likely to me would be Race Thompson, just because it's kind of unclear where he fits with this roster the way it's set up now. He's probably going to play significantly fewer minutes next year than he did this year. I don't know if that's going to bother him at all, if he's going to care about that. But that if someone was going to leave, I could see a rationale for him leaving, just because if he's a very good player, bulldog on both ends, he could find somewhere where he would be a starter and play 25, 30 minutes a game. That's probably not going to happen at IU next year. So I could see that. Still seems unlikely to me.
But is he looking for more minutes, or is he looking to develop his game for the future? Yeah. A lot of questions will go into that to his decision making. But actually, they kind of need him because they didn't have the depth at the big man position before they got Durr. Now you have depth.
Right.
And so now you've got a pretty complete team as far as the positions being filled that you need filled. How well they get filled, how well that develops, how well they gel together and all that will be determined later. But you've got the pieces in place to do what you need to do. Of course, the fans are going to Forrest says, I think IU basketball is one of the most complete rosters in the Big Ten. Whether that will translate to wins remains to be seen. Guess we'll find out beginning November. Well, that's about as well as you can say it. I don't know. I haven't looked at everyone else's rosters yet because they're probably not completed. And I'm not going to waste my time in May looking at people's rosters until well after July. But they're in good position. They have the pieces they need. All of them are not experienced as you'd like them to be in that certain position. But what does this do for Trace Jackson Davis, Dylan? You bring in Durr, who I'm going to imagine is going to be pretty damn active underneath, which will take up some room. Will take up some of Trace Jackson Davis's room, because that's the only place he's been active, which is good. But his lack of development outside is going to really show now when you have someone like Durr. I mean, you could theoretically play Durr and Thompson at the same time if you had to, with the other pieces you have out there. I'm not saying Trace Jackson Davis is expendable. It's not what I'm saying, but he's going to have to bring something more to the game than putting in some layups. He's going to have to develop the rest of that game.
And I mean, bringing in Durr allows Mike Woodson to keep his promise to Trace Jackson Davis. He promised him when Davis said he would come back, he promised him that he would get him more looks on the perimeter at the high post. And they're going to be able to play some high post, low post with Trace Jackson Davis and Michael Durr on the floor at the same time. That's a big lineup you have out there. So you're right. Jackson Davis is going to have to play on the perimeter a little bit more. He's going to have to shoot jumpers. He's going to have to go to his right hand. And those are things that Mike Woodson said he wanted him to do. And once Joey Brunk transferred, it was kind of unclear what they were going to do at center. It seemed like their best option was putting Trace Jackson Davis right back at center, which is where he was this year. And he was out of position. As good as he was an All-American. He was out of position. He was not comfortable playing there. And he said that repeatedly. So now you bring in Durr, you have that depth at center. You give Trace Jackson Davis a chance to play power forward where he's played his entire career, where he feels comfortable, and where he can develop his game to the next level. And that's exactly what you want if you're IU. You want him out on the perimeter, shooting 15-footers, and expanding his game that way. And then once teams kind of have to come out on him and defend those 15-footers, then you get him going to the hoop, because he's more athletic than just about anyone he's going to face at that position. So you're going to see him driving by people and getting to the rim. And that's really going to open things up for him, I feel like. And having Durr there is extremely important. As you said, it was, to me, Durr that is kind of the missing piece. They were short a big man. They went out and got one. And I think that's really important for this team right now.
Think about Thomas Bryant, what he did when this team had a Thomas Bryant. Even if he's not doing, he's still an imposing figure just being in there. Defensively, think about a lot of times when you play teams like Purdue, a lot of times those guys aren't doing a lot, but they just, Harms comes to mind. He didn't do a lot. He just seemed to be in the way a lot. But sometimes just being in the way can be problematic. Or you can put your arm on someone's shoulder and push them down and tip in a ball at the last second for a win. But all that little stuff never leaves my mind. But yeah, it's going to change the dynamic, period. Because Indiana did not have any kind of dominance with their team under Archie Miller. Nothing was dominant. Zip. No dominant shooter, no dominant rebounder, no dominant scorer, no dominant rebound, nothing. Nothing was dominant. And they could have a few pieces now because one feeds to the other. If Dirk can get in there and get confident with the coaching and become a force and play off of each other, man, they could really dominate that paint. We haven't talked about what could be going on the outside, the addition of Xavier Johnson and those guys that can score.
Yeah.
And Miller Kopp, a 3-year starter. Guy is not afraid to play. Indiana, I tried to not, especially this early, get jacked up, get the people jacked up, but they have the pieces they need to compete undoubtedly in the top 4 of this conference next year, I think. But again, have to wait to see what everybody else has. Michigan's looking good. Illinois was kind of gutted. We got to take a break. I'm late, so let's do that now. But missed that. But we'll talk about it. And Bob Kravitz is going to join us. Cannot wait right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros.
Hey, Hoosier fans. How long was Let Bob in? Hey, Bob, Robert.
Hey, man. How are you?
I hope you weren't there too long.
No, just about 2 seconds. We gonna talk some Pacers?
Absolutely. It was a big win last night. I was waiting for you to do that.
Yeah, that's because I don't know this Dirk kid from I don't know this Dirk. I just know he's tall and he rebounds well.
Yeah, you haven't been watching the film, Bob?
I have not been grinding film there.
Disappointed. Not been in the film study. Probably got his Callaway hat on, so he's probably leaving to go play golf as soon as he gets off here.
No, I gotta transcribe an hour-long conversation with AJ Foyt, who is not my favorite person.
Really?
He was very, very nice, but he said so many reprehensible things about Black people that I found it really hard to sit there and listen.
Nice.
How old is he now?
172. He's 86.
Okay.
He's a product of his times. So I won't give him too much shit. But I was like, why are you saying this to me? I got a tape recorder going.
It is amazing. Some, I guess, they are a product of that time.
They are,
because I was around some of those people.
Yeah,
and I'm fortunate because I was around some of that, but I think it was at least at a time where I was quickly able to see, that's not right. That's not how it goes.
Don't talk about that. I'll mention that I'm doing an AJ Foyt piece, but I'm not going to publicly say that he's a reprehensible racist. But yeah, I got a couple of Indy 500 stories I'm working on. It's coming out next week.
And it is a shame. I feel sorry for those people too, that when they're older, they probably lose. I don't know. You lose the ability to know that you're saying something that's really, really bad.
Right.
But when it's out, they're effed.
Yeah.
Because the people just don't give a crap.
No, I think he doesn't give a fuck. I think that's the bottom line.
Well, he doesn't have to.
I'm back.
Okay.
Sam's Restaurant in Fishers has homemade coffee cakes and much more. Sam's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Sam's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday, joined now by the great Bob Kravitz. Robert, how are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Doing well. Dylan Sinn with us as well.
Hello,
He's the only
Dylan.
hat. He's on the no hats tour, it looks like.
I am. I'm the only one on this show that is. But welcome, Bob. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. I didn't break out one of my old hockey hats. I'm going straight Callaway.
I was going. Normally, he graces us with a blast from the past. I used to have some cool minor league baseball hats. Just a couple from the stuff I was doing, but no more. I've got a basket of hats, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with these that I've worn, not worn? I don't want to get rid of them because, oh yeah, that and this and that. I'm like, why? How many hats do you have?
About 30.
Dylan, do you have any hats at all?
Dude. Nothing.
I get it.
Nothing there.
Yeah,
Well,
I have.
this is thin. It's thinning. It allows me. I got to keep it one way, so if I'm out in the sun, I can wear a visor. But I got to make sure it's the same way.
Well, I couldn't wear a visor. It would bore a hole through my.
Dylan, you a hat guy at all?
I have a grand total of 2 hats. I have one from IU, one from Maryland because I went to grad school at Maryland.
Boom. Yeah, I've got a basket full of hats, and that's after probably going through them. I don't know how many times, but it's just one of those things. You just a guy just kind of adds. It's like women in shoes, I guess.
Yeah.
Or I hope that doesn't get me in trouble.
Yeah,
But
just acquire them over time.
yeah, easy. Indy 500, man. Big event, big spectator event. We talked about the largest spectator event we've seen in since the pandemic started. So we've got that. All the excitement, the pageantry that goes on with the Indy 500, Indianapolis. I guess this could be kind of not a litmus test, but a spark to get the city back open as coming out of COVID.
Well, I think that the NCAA tournament was kind of the first effort to get things reopened, at least when it comes to sports. And 140,000 people will be attending. I fully suspect that the TV blackout will be listed once they sell all the tickets, which I assume they will pretty easily. One of the reasons they felt good about opening this up to 140,000 was that the numbers they saw, the statistics from the NCAA tournament were so positive. The NCAA tournament was not a super spreader event. There were not the kinds of problems that you would have feared. And so they're going ahead with 140,000. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's spectacular. 100. I'm trying to think. So the Kentucky Derby, has that been the biggest so far? What they have
I believe so. I don't know how many they had, but I would believe so.
I think they had like 50,000 or something. Normally they're at 170 for the Derby.
Right.
It just.
The Kentucky Derby was at 50,000, then Belmont was only at 10,000.
Well, they don't draw much there, but it's just good to see it coming back. I was at an IU baseball game yesterday. It was, there was all the seats inside the press box, but I had more fun going out and just watching the game and leaning up against the fence. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, it's hard to remind yourself how long it had been and how you're like, wow, I'm really doing this. It's a weird feeling.
I'm so looking forward to going. Like I went to Colts home games last year, but now that I'm vaccinated and virtually everybody else that I know is vaccinated, I feel comfortable leaving the house. being somewhere besides the house or the golf course. So I'm looking forward to like going to Pacers games next year, going to road Colts games next year. It's just, we've come through an amazing, awful, miserable time in human history, and thank God it's almost over.
I think I know who I'm going to donate my hats to, guys. Alan says he's got 732. Holy crap. Well,
Yeah.
I'll
Hey, does Alan have a Hartford Whalers hat? That's my question. If you don't have a Hartford Whalers hat, the 722 don't mean squat.
Yeah, that's a lot to not have that, but I'll definitely, if you want, I'll donate to that collection. But yeah, Brian asked, do you think that Brissett was the biggest move the Pacers made this year? The guy can ball. The Pacers, of course, last night just handed it to Charlotte after, previously it was a kind of a bad loss for them. But man, Cody Zeller comes in, and I looked up and I'm like, man, they're kicking the crap out of them. Yeah,
you never would have known that it was a one and done type of scenario for the Charlotte Hornets. Now, they lost 6-15, and they lost. They had won 6 of their last 15 regular season games. They went completely in the tank after they lost Gordon Hayward, and so we probably shouldn't be all that surprised. But that team played like it was a preseason game, not even a mid-February game, a preseason game. I was shocked at their lack of intensity and urgency.
I mean, 144 to 117. And the Pacers have been weird. They'll score 1,000 points and then they'll get beat. They'll give up 1,000 points. But so tonight, I guess, who won last night? The Celtics or?
The Celtics won last night. So the Pacers will play Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal and the Washington Wizards in Washington Thursday night, 8 o'clock TNT.
Oh, they play Washington. I thought that they might be playing the Celtics.
Come on, Tim, get on top of this.
Yep, tomorrow at 8 o'clock.
The Celtics are locked into playing the Nets in the first round. So the Celtics have clinched the 7th seed now.
Yeah, that's this play-in deal has got me all jacked around. But
okay.
But tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. So you got that going for you.
Yeah, interesting game too, by the way. It's going to be. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. What makes it? Is it the matchup?
It's the matchup. I mean, the Wizards have won all 3 regular season games. They've all been close. They've all been ridiculously high scoring. Well, not all 3 have been close, but two are close. But they're. I don't know how far they can go without Karis LeVert. Malcolm Brogdon played really well last night, but, everybody played well last night. And, he's still really limited by that hamstring. So, I don't know how he's going to stay in front of Russell Westbrook. And I don't see Westbrook having 2 really rotten games in a row. So I like Washington in that game. But what the heck, the Pacers left their fans with at least one good memory from a season that's largely gone sideways.
Yeah, but wouldn't it have been better if they lost that game?
Well, I mean, you're still, if they lose on Thursday, they're still in the lottery.
Oh.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, they're still in the lottery. I think they got about a 0.0006% chance of, getting a top 10 pick, but at least they'll take a shot at it. I do think it would be better for them to lose that game. But, whether you're picking 14 or 15, I'm not sure how much of a difference that's really going to be.
Dylan?
Well, I was just surprised. Were you surprised, Bob, at all by the fact that it was from the start of that game last night? The Hornets were never in that game. It wasn't like we got to the second quarter and they gave up. They were never in that game from the opening tip-off. I was just shocked by that.
Yeah, me too. And look, I give Bjorkgren credit. He had his team ready. Especially after they got the news late morning that Karis LeVert was going to miss the game because of COVID protocols, and he's likely out 10 to 14 days. So
how do they score 144 points without Karis LeVert?
Well, first, Charlotte didn't show up. that had something to do with it, but it was just one of those nights, I mean, you play pickup basketball, and once, well, no, I don't want to compare your game to theirs, but once in
I wouldn't either.
once in a while, I mean, first of all, let's talk about O'Shea Brissett. This guy had 10-game contracts. He started the season in the G League. Now he's starting for the Indiana Pacers, and he has been tremendous. What a great story this guy is. Sabonis started slow, but he almost had a triple-double. He was 1 assist shy. Brogdon was solid. Justin Holiday. You go down the list. I mean, Goga Batadze, for God's sake, he had a double-double off the bench. So just one of those nights. And again, it's the one good memory of a season that just really hasn't panned out for a lot of very good reasons. I mean, they've just been decimated all year.
I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about O'Shea Brissett. He was in the G League. He was in the G League here in Fort Wayne. That to me is one of the best stories in the NBA this year. And I mean, people aren't talking about it very much because it's the Pacers and they don't get a lot of national coverage. But that's one of the best stories in the NBA this year.
Oh, absolutely. And the guy's still living in a hotel. He's not even renting a condo or anything. And he talked last night a little bit. He's away from his young daughter, and it's been very difficult. I don't know where he's from, but he's away from his young daughter. But he said, this is why I'm doing all this for her, and supporting the family and everything else. He's a really good guy, and there's been a lot of internal discord with the Pacers, but you get these young guys like Keelan Martin and O'Shea Brissett and Goga Batadze and all these guys who, are just happy to be getting run. They're just happy to be getting minutes. And they are playing like their hair's on fire. And that's great to see. So, I mean, I give them a puncher's chance against Washington, but boy, I don't want to see I don't want to know what it's going to look like against Philadelphia if they should get that far.
How much did it help the Hornets by losing that game?
Just a little bit, I mean, they get into the lottery, but again, your lottery odds are very, very limited.
Well, I asked just because they played so horribly. I mean, they were down 16 in the first quarter.
Yeah, and it got to like 32 there in the third quarter. No, I don't think they tanked. I just think they were a bad team at the end of the year. You lose Gordon Hayward, who's one of your veteran players, who is a matchup nightmare, especially for the Pacers. Although with Brissett in the lineup, it may not have been such a bad mismatch, but they've been bad really for the last month of the season. So it wasn't a complete shock, but yeah, I don't think they tanked. I just think they're not very good right now.
That sounds like me. It's perfect. So we got the Indy 500 coming up, and I know you'll be out there and around the track and have been. That's the one thing. I'm so tired this year from all that's going on. I'm like, I'm not even messing with it going up there. I regret it a little bit because I'd like to, but what's it been like up at the track coming out of COVID? It's always excitement, just the sounds but because the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a unique. It's just such a unique sporting event because it goes on for like a month. And there are other things that lead up to it, but then there's the main event, of course. But this is a month-long thing. It's not unlike any other sporting event.
Right. It used to be that we talked about the month of May, and it used to be a full month. In the more modern day, it's been kind of a 2.5 week type of thing. But I'm the first day of practice was interesting. It's just cool to see the cars out there. I'm not a motorsports expert by any stretch of the imagination, but it was cool. I talked with AJ Foyt the other day. I talked with Willie. I have a really good story, I think, going next week about Willie T. Ribbs, who was the first black driver ever to qualify and run at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the Indy 500, doing something with AJ, who's an interesting fellow. That'll be next week. But look, the IndyCar is as competitive as it's ever been. You've got some star power. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this. I'm going to head out there on Thursday again and see what's going on and then get back in time to watch and cover the Pacers.
Yeah, both of those guys are kind of very unique characters in completely different ways. Yeah. I have not had the opportunity to be around AJ Foyt, but I know he's just a kind of an old codger type of deal. Willie T. Ribbs, I did meet him way back when he made his run, and I found him to be almost arrogant of sort.
He is.
Then.
It's great.
But you have to be. You're going 235 miles an hour. If you're not arrogant, you're dead probably.
Well, you know, Willie is a guy who developed a relationship with Muhammad Ali. Early in his career.
Did not know that.
And he was very much like Ali on a much lower level. And he's just very opinionated. You know, here's the thing. Everybody talks about Willie T being arrogant and all this stuff. And in fact, there's a documentary out about Willie T that's called Uppity. And people criticize him for being that way. And yet an AJ Foyt or a Tony Stewart or any one of those guys can say whatever the hell they want. And they're viewed as great competitors and they're tough guys and they don't take any you-know-what off anybody. So I do think race enters into it. When you see a guy like Willie T, you think, oh, he's an arrogant so-and-so. And yeah, he's a little arrogant. But again, I think in any sport to be great, there has to be sort of that necessary arrogance.
Oh, all those you have to, if you don't believe.
Right.
Who is? If you don't believe you have that talent.
Right. And this is a guy, I understand, who is always looking for, for corporate help. And he needed to establish himself as a personality. He couldn't just be Scott Dixon. You know, I mean, he doesn't have Scott Dixon's backing or money or whatever. He needed to establish himself as being a little bit different. And I just think that's the way he is. We talked for 50 minutes and he was, at times it was a little contentious, but it was great fun, and I just love the fact that he tells it like he thinks it is, which is exactly what we laud Tony Stewart and AJ Foyt for.
Exactly. Muhammad Ali, by the way, my greatest sports hero for all my life. I loved how he did everything he did and what he lost and stood for. And man, you talk about funny. That dude was as funny as anybody ever and quick-witted. And he did all that without the benefit of a great education. Right. And that dude was smart. I mean, he may not have been the smartest guy, but he was the wittiest and quickest and fast hands.
I remember many, many years ago, this would probably be I'm old, in the early 80s. And Muhammad was just starting to deteriorate from the Parkinson's. But we were at a table at some banquet, and I got lucky enough to be at his table.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
He was doing these magic tricks for everybody. And then he was telling us how he did them. I was like, Ali, you don't have to do that. You just do the trick. But he was great. He had kind of this boyish wonder about the whole thing. And it was really cool.
He was amazing. Bob, man, it's always great. I hope you have fun out at the track the rest of the next few weeks and whatever you're going to do. You need to get down here. I'm ready to play. I am ready to line them up.
I was born ready.
All right, brother. Bob Kravitz, make sure you find him on The Athletic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, man.
Have a great day. We got more coming up. Let's see. Tim says Ribbs was almost killed at 8 years old when he was hit with an out-of-control race car. There you go. You may have to add that to your story. Hey, we got more coming back. We'll be back with it.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Whether you're looking for a relaxing night with a family.
No Bob next week. That was fun. Yeah, he can't be here next week. I can't. I won't say it why over the air, but he reminded me last week too. But I made the offer to do that live on the air where he's going to be next week, but he declined.
Oh gosh. All
Maybe I
right.
can get Aaron Matus again.
Oh, good idea. Or if there's ever anybody you want to bring on, man.
Yeah, I don't really have anyone particularly, but I will let you know if anything ever comes up.
Could be an athlete. Anybody you have a contact to, seriously.
I will absolutely let you guys know. But yeah, it's exciting, man. It's nice being on here.
We need to swap phone databases.
Yeah.
Contact
I
lists.
mean, I'm sure there's a lot of crossover, but
You're going to have about 4 minutes, by the way, when you come back from this break.
Okay. Want to touch on IU football? We never got to talk about that.
I tell you what, we'll do this 4 minutes real quick, end it, and then we'll do just like a 5 or 10 minute overtime, just 5 minutes or whatever, just so we don't
Rush it.
leave them wanting more, but
Hey, maybe we'll eventually get picked up by a station that gives us 2 hours. So,
I could. We used to do 2 hours. We cut back when COVID hit.
oh,
And then Evansville said, hey, can you do more? I'm like, yeah.
so you're going to go back to 2 hours?
Well, we can at any time. Filling another half hour is not hard. Especially, actually, like when we're out of season, we just start talking. It seems like it goes faster.
I agree.
Those are natural. Oh. Well, I'm glad you do enjoy it. I didn't know if you did or not. Dustin?
Dylan.
Yeah. No, I do. I enjoy being on here.
Coming back.
Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty, Indy Home Pros. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Remax Realty Indy Home Pros. Here's Jim Coyne.
Hey, I hope your day is going well on this Wednesday. Dylan Sinn's joining me as he does from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Just finished up with Bob Kravitz from The Athletic as he joins us each week. And yeah, I wish I was going up to the Indy 500, to be honest with you. I probably will really wish it when it gets here because I will be rested up by then. What was it we were talking about in the break? Oh, did you say we hadn't talked about?
And we said you touched on IU football a little bit earlier because you said it was the most anticipated IU football season ever. But we didn't get to touch on it as much as we should have because we had Kyle on earlier with us.
Yeah, the anticipate, and it continues to build as these transfers continue to come. You just had the car kid from USC. You have Harden from Auburn. You've got the guy that transferred from Ole Miss after Ole Miss beats Indiana in a bowl game. You've got Joanne Swan from Stanford last year. I mean, Indiana is becoming, I said this in a post, Indiana is becoming a destination for those who thought the grass was greener.
Yeah.
Indiana's not that destination place yet for the elite, but some of these elite are going to these places, finding out it's not as great as it's cracked up to be, not getting to play, whatever. They can go here and be competitive, play, and hey, hello. So it's about to change. I really believe that. But Indiana does not have to have as many 5 stars as these other schools because they actually are working and developing talent as well. Sometimes I think a mixture of developed talent would beat elite talent all day long. because developed talent has a chip on their shoulder. It's more mental. They've worked harder. Zero evidence to back that up, but just a thought. I mean, I love when you see developed talent. I mean, it means more to you. The harder you work, the more you put in, the more it means to you.
Right. And that's what's so important for Indiana right now is they're starting to get some of that talent that's actually elite talent and then developing that. And that's what's going to make it a lot of fun. I mean, Stephen Carr, he was a 5-star running back. He was one of the top running back recruits in the entire country that year. So, and he was actually USC's leading ball carrier last year. He led USC in carries, and he still decided he wanted to get out of there and come to IU. That's an impressive get for IU.
Absolutely. Man, we had an incredible show today that was absolutely stuffed full. Kyle Neddenriep from the Star, Bob Kravitz from the Athletic, and of course, Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. We're going to do a quick overtime period because we've had so much. For those of you that are on radio, we appreciate you. If you're on listening on the Ref in Evansville, stay tuned for Dan Agurski. He's coming up next. Everybody else, we were going to go do a little overtime, and if you're not joining us, for Dylan Sinn, Bob Kravitz, and Kyle Neddenriep, go out and do something nice for somebody. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio. I've dropped the masked thing from. I don't say that anymore.
There we go. That's
that
was the baseball team that I cover announced last night that that masks are no longer required in outdoor areas of the park.
Yeah, the baseball team I covered tonight did not make that announcement, but of course I was covering Indiana. But yeah, football, it is without question the most anticipated season in however many years of football they played. First of all, what the talent that's coming, that alone, that's great. Now you look at the schedule. Holy crap! You open up at Iowa, a team that has already pissed you off your fan base. They are pissed off at Iowa. The team's not pissed off at Iowa, but every Indiana fan is pissed off at Iowa. They want to beat their ass so bad. The Gary Barta Bowl. And the best time to catch Iowa is early. They lost their first 2 games last year, which ended up screwing their season. They got better after that. But, man, I guess if you're going to have to play them early and get it out of the way, and maybe an offense like Indiana can catch Iowa off guard early like that. I think that may be an advantage for Indiana in that regard if Michael Penix is ready to go.
Yes, absolutely. I was just about to say if Michael Penix is ready to go, that should be fun. We saw he posted some photos the other day of him throwing. He looked healthy. He looked like he was making progress in his recovery. So that is extremely hopeful. But yes, catching Iowa early is going to be important, and just getting back to football in September is going to be fun, especially with IU starting with a conference game again. You get one of those conference games out of the way. If you win that first one, you start 1-0 in conference, in addition to starting 1-0 overall. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and one of those teams is going to go home with a lot of momentum.
And you talk about the schedule. Crap, you cannot. There is no complaints about Indiana's football schedule next year, period. You open up on the road at Iowa, you come home and play an Idaho team. I mean, yeah, this is not – Idaho's pretty good. They're coached – I think they're still coached by Bobby Petrino's brother, if I'm not mistaken, who's been there for a while. Then your third game, it's Cincinnati. It's a top 10 match, non-conference top 10 matchup. Are you kidding me? So 2 out of your first 3 games are top 15 matchups.
Yeah.
And we haven't even begun to talk about the Big Ten East yet.
Exactly. It's going to be it's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of pressure. Like Indiana is not going to sneak up on anyone this year. They've arrived in terms of national exposure, and there's going to be a lot of discussion before the season of how good can Indiana be, how high can they fly. You're going to have to go out and prove it, just like you did this year. You're going to have to go out and prove it. We're going to see if they can.
And the great thing about, I guess, Iowa is they're not going to know. The Michael Penix thing is going to be kind of a mystery to them. They don't really, if Indiana I don't know how well they can keep it secret, but they will try. But what quarterback they were preparing for. Because Jack Tuttle, while a lot of people say he's not Michael Penix, and he's not, it's a little, there is some difference. There's not a ton of drop-off. It's a different style, and you forget, he's had an entire year of first-round reps.
Yeah.
This is a top 11 quarterback that came here. He's not some kid that they're just trying to develop. This kid has talent. He's a pocket passer, just different than Michael Penix. But there's not a lot of drop-off, and he's gotten all these reps. Boom. You basically are back to having 1A and 1B, except for 1B is much better than Peyton Ramsey was. Nothing against Peyton Ramsey, but Jack Tuttle is a hell of a lot better quarterback than Peyton Ramsey was.
Yeah, and that's the thing is IU has that ability now. Tom Allen talked about from the time that he got here, when they went 5-7 his first 2 years, what he kept preaching was, we want to have depth at every single position, so that if some guy goes down, we have someone that can come in and we can feel confident. And not a lot of teams, even at the elite level, have that at quarterback, and IU has that at quarterback. And that's not even to mention Donovan McCulley, who is an extremely talented player and will eventually probably be the starting quarterback at IU and be a very good player. And he's just a true freshman, but you can potentially go 3 deep if he develops quickly.
Absolutely. Well, what do you have coming up next, Dylan?
Well, this week I am covering the Tin Caps here in Fort Wayne. That is the main thing. And of course, we have tons of high school coverage at www.journalgazette.net. So we have all of the high school coverage that you could ever want. And I am covering the Tin Caps. Comets playoffs are coming up. So we have everything, and you should check it out.
There you go. And make sure you give Dylan a follow as well. And myself at Jim Coyle ISB on Twitter. And make sure you go to YouTube and sign up for us there. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Just toggle for notifications. Fun day as always, man. It was great. This is fun. It's getting better, and we'll have more and more fun discussions as the summer goes on. But you got to have a great week, man. Look forward to doing it again next week.
Absolutely, Jim. Always glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. And tomorrow we'll look forward to having Dustin Schutte, Chris Denari, Matt Taylor, and see what else we can get scared up. But until then, you guys go out, do something nice for somebody, and I'll see you on